We have two more people missing, but they went somewhere to. So they had some errand to run that was very urgent, and they're coming back. They will be a little bit late. Our speaker for this session is Jack Katz. With great pleasure, I would like to introduce him to you. He's an internationally recognized business and technology expert, speaker, and author with over 25 years of experience working in information systems, management, marketing, and business development. Jack is the CEO of Novus Globe, a US market entry company which works with emerging global companies to define, develop, and expand their products and services worldwide. Also, Jack co-founded the Global Strategic Research Institute, which is a non-profit think tank and research entity offering a global network for select businesses, government, and academic leaders to share and disseminate innovative ideas and solutions for today's competitive world. I'm sure Jack will tell more about what he currently is involved in, and please welcome.
Thank you very much.
You have your microphone.
I got my microphone on. There was a instructor, that one of the best gurus in the United States in business, named Peter Drucker, said two things about business. There's only two things that really matter in business. One is marketing, and the other one is innovation. Everything else doesn't matter, okay? Knowing that, your job, what you're going to have to do, because we're looking at business plans right now, we're going to talk a little bit about business plans, and then I'm going to tell you how to take those business plans and really have a competitive strategy based on them. But what you really need to do from those business plans is make everything as simple as possible so people can understand what you're saying. When you go to a VC, which is a potential customer, a channel partner, whoever it is, they don't necessarily or are not necessarily going to understand the technology that you're talking about. So you have to make things very, very easy for them to understand. What I have on the slide over here is our philosophy is products win battles. So you can create any type of product you want. You can challenge them, but that's not what's going to make you successful as a company. What's going to make you successful as a company is the business model or business plan that you're going to use. But a business plan is not static. It doesn't stay. It fluctuates with time. You constantly upgrade it. You have constantly change it based on the market. It's a systematic process of looking at things and changing things. And I'm going to show you that in the presentations over here. But that's pretty much what's going on right now on the area of business plans. So let's take a look at a business plan overall. The essentials of a business plan. And as you can see here, you have financial planning, you have operations, you have the timeline, competitor analysis, SWOT analysis. That's your strengths, your weakness, the opportunities and threats, right? That's a SWOT. So you look at your strengths of your company, and you have to really look into that. Not just what people are talking about, but that's the SWOT. You have your mission statement. You have marketing plans, okay? Most people fail right here is how to market. So a good example, and then of course your product description. So let's say you're here, we're working on a business plan together, and you're looking for $2 million US dollars in funding from a VC. Who is your customer? Is it me? No. Is it this gentleman over here? No, it's the VC, correct? But every VC, as you saw last week, is totally different. Each of them wants certain things. Each of them are looking for certain things that are different from other VCs. So if you're going to sell them your idea, what you have to do is understand what that VC is looking for, and from that, develop your plan, your pitch, your marketing statement, to that individual VC. It's a lot of work. Okay, so you have a basic business plan, which covers 80% of what you do, but then you have to really get specific, because a business plan isn't only for VCs, it's for your employees, it's for your technologies, it's for your partners, it's for a lot of different people in the market that are looking to you to do something different, to be innovative in your approach. That's what really happens in this whole game of marketing and business plan development. It's a marketing statement. It's a way of getting people's attention to either invest in you, invest in your product, or for you to have a guideline to what you want to do in the future. So what you really look at is what's most important. Is that business plan the most important thing, that document, or is it really the process of planning? And I'm saying to you right now that the most important thing is that process of planning, because you're going to continue to change that process of planning as you go through different ways of doing things. Let me give you an example. A few years ago, I wrote a book. I'm not pushing my book, but I wrote the book. And the reason why I wrote the book is because companies and individuals like yourself came to me and asked me the same questions over and over and over again, and I was spending a half hour to an hour each time talking to people, and it was about 100 hours, 100 different people of my time spent. Okay? When I started to write the book initially, it was 4 years before it actually came to market. And I rewrote the book 10 different times. Okay? Redid it, to refined it, got better, talked to people, asked them what they were thinking. All of this type of thing to get this to be good. The cover itself took about 5 different ways of looking at things just to get the message across. That's the same thing that you're going to have to do in your business plan, is to be able to do that. So what is the process of building a business plan? Starting off doing your research. You're doing your research right now. You have multiple speakers are coming in. You're getting information. You're seeing different companies. Right now you're in that research mode. The next thing you're going to do is start analyzing this data and saying, is this important? Is it not important? Is it valuable? Is it not valuable? Okay? You're going to start doing that type of analysis. Matter of fact, what you should be asking yourself all the time is a couple of different questions. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Who, what, when, why, and how. Who's doing it? Why are they doing it? Or should I go to them? When should I do it? What's the appropriate timing? Why? How? You keep doing it. How do I get to them? How do I find who the right people? Once I know who the people are, how do I find them? How do I get to them? How do I sell my ideas to them? That becomes critical. So that's after the analysis. You have to, even during the analysis, you start working on that process. Then you begin to put your plan together, the structure of your plan with the different pieces we just talked about, and then you draft it up, you edit it, and you may do multiple edits to your plan. You have to format it, and eventually you package it. And the steps to the plan are listed right down on the bottom over here, which you can look up anytime you want. That's not what's important. This comes from this, and talking to people and understanding the markets that you're going to, why you're going to certain markets, who your competition is. All this becomes very critical in that process to be able to do that. Is that clear? We okay? We're all on the same page here? So what really makes up a business plan? We talked about some of the components. You have the industry overview, the market opportunity. Most people don't know the market opportunity, because most people will tell you, I have the best product in the entire world. I'm an engineer. Most of the engineers I deal with tell me this is the best product in the entire world. Okay? Oh, you guys do it all the time. The problem is, who's going to buy it? Everybody in China going to buy it? Everybody in Kazakhstan going to buy it? No. Everybody in the United States is going to buy it? No. This thing has you have competitors, you have people already established in the markets you're going to, all these people. So your market isn't 300 million or 315 million people like in the United States. You may have a small niche type market of maybe 5 million people. But I want you to look at the markets differently. I want you to think of the market as an individual. Okay? So you're going to have global markets, you're going to have non-domestic markets. You're right now in the domestic market in your home country. You're trying to get into the global business. That's why you're in Silicon Valley, right? Totally different market, much different and much harder market to get into. You have to understand this market. How do you do that? Well, you hear speakers that are coming in, but you have to go out and say, look at the stores. If it's a device like this, if it's oil gas, what are we doing in oil gas? If it's food production, what are we doing in food production? What are we doing to make things different? Okay? A lot of work. Everything I'm talking about is a lot of work. That type of work separates the best from everybody else, because 95% of all companies that are going into new markets, or 95% of companies that are looking for VC funding, will not get it, or they'll fail in the market. Only 5% do that. And by the way, if you get VC money, it's 2 out of 10 companies, and the VCs may see hundreds of companies, but they'll pick 10 companies and they only want 2 to be successful. That's what makes up their money. That's how it works. And again, you're going to have a course, somebody's going to give you a course on financial modeling and stuff, and I'm going to go through some of that a little bit here in a minute. So the business plan context, it's actually, if you really look at the business plan, it really is a maze. It's a maze of different ways of looking at things, but really, it's all of these. But you need to know who that competition is out there. You really need to know your value proposition. So what is a value proposition? Your value proposition is not what I'm looking for. You need to know what I'm the customer. You need to know my value proposition. And I'll show you that in a minute. I'm the one you're selling to. I don't care if you have that best product in the world. That's your value. You believe it's the best. I have no idea if it is. And if you don't know me, it's not going to give you no value. So what's really involved in this? Well, you have your mission that you're going to do as a company. You're going to change the world, right? That's what your goal is. You're trying to do all kinds of things. In the Kazakhstan 2050, he basically has a mission statement at the very beginning. His overall aims to the plan. Are they going to be successful or not? It's still the guiding point to where he wants to go, the president wants to go. And the reason for the existence of the plan is right there. The vision, he goes out to 2050, and he divides it into 2 parts, 2015 and 2050, and he has a picture of success. What are the criteria for success? And your president outlined these already. Okay, so that part of the plan is already there. His goals, he put the goals down, very high level goals, okay, and the major objectives, short term, didn't really mention short term 1 year, he did, 10 years and so forth. Strategies on a quarterly basis, it's not broken down into plan, but you need to be able to do that. You're going to be managing the whole process, and the tactics on a monthly, weekly, that's the project management aspect of it. But you have to know about it because people are going to ask you questions of each of those areas. Where do you want to be next quarter in your financial plan, but also where do you want to be in your sales model? How many customers are you going to have? And what happens in the plan is that most CEOs from startup companies exaggerate. All of a sudden, what's called a hockey stick. They start low and all of a sudden their sales go up like this. It doesn't work. Sales are gradual. Development is gradual. You have setbacks. You have changes. All of this occur, but when you look at a plan, these areas are the turnoffs to a lot of venture capital people. So what you really have to do is look at what's involved and begin to develop your strategy. So I teach at Berkeley, okay? That was mentioned before. So this gentleman has been looking at these things, and he looks at these different models between products and markets. So if you are a present market, okay, you're starting out in a present market, what you really want to do is penetrate that market or begin to get penetration with your products in the present. You want to begin to get into that market. What you're doing right now, being here, is you're trying to penetrate a market which you haven't even penetrated your home market in yet, correct? And if you haven't penetrated your home market, it's very difficult to get any type of traction from anybody else who would be interested in your product. So you have to begin to penetrate your home market and get customers, people that are willing to buy that or buy you whatever you have to offer in the way of your product. And the other thing in the present, you have product development. You need to be able to finish your product. It's just not an idea. It's a product that you want to begin to show people that you really have. It's no longer the idea. It becomes part of the product. In new markets, you have to develop that market. This one, you penetrate it. You go into the market. And if I'm in Kazakhstan and I was born in Kazakhstan, I know the market better in Kazakhstan than I know the market in the United States. First of all, there is no pure U.S. market. The United States has multiple markets, depending on what kind of product you have, what kind of customer you're looking at, and so forth. When you go into foreign countries, from even the mistake that U.S. businesses make, they go into and figure, I'm going to go into Norway of 5 million, 6 million people, and I can get into that market, and they can't because their customer base isn't the entire population. It's a very specific group of people that they're trying to get to. So in the new markets, you have to develop that market, and that could take time. And the way you can do that is different ways, and I'll show you what they are. And product to market diversification, and there's risk involved with that. And what I mean by that is you may have an opportunity of doing a joint venture, or one of them is a joint venture, a merger and acquisition, and so forth. And when you look at it, there's almost 50 different ways of entering markets around the world. A lot of things to consider in your business plan. Most people look at 5, and I'm going to show you those 5, but there are about 50 different ways of getting into a market. So that's the model here. What you really are trying to do overall is you're looking at the market dynamics globally, regionally, countrywide. You're trying to find out what those customer requirements are, which are become key, and the company's needs, your needs, how long you have, how much money or capital you have to be able to work with this, and to put them all together. And what you're trying to do is be right in that middle red area to be successful there. Okay. So let's look at the customer focus and what happens with most customers and why most companies fail. It's really very simple. You have customer value over time. Customers are going to define, and I'll explain this in a minute, customers are going to define their own value. You cannot define a customer's value in the traditional sense. The customer is going to say, I have a value of this product. It's helping me. There's a value to this. But most products, what occurs is somebody starts developing it, they haven't really looked at the market, and all of a sudden the product fails. And part of it is because you're not looking at it from a customer standpoint. The longer you go out, the better chance of success. But what happens is if you can focus on the customer, have that focus, and the same language and tools, so we're speaking the same type of thing, we have the same context to how we operate, you begin to increase your success factors. What did I do when I first got into the room over here? Okay, I asked you some questions, right? If you're my customer, I needed to know about what you're looking for. So what did I ask you? Besides breaking the ice with your Kazakhstan 2050, what are you interested in? What are you looking for? So I could adjust my presentation to your needs. Okay, I can go 100 different ways in this presentation, but I didn't know your backgrounds until I asked you. So the first thing I did is spend some time talking to you so we understand we're talking the same language, and we didn't get quite into the tools that could be used, but I could have done that. So the next thing is, that moves it up to time, and the greater is the success factor of your business plan. Now if I can focus on the customer's needs, that's you, the same language and tools, plus how do you create the value? Okay, the value becomes the key to this whole plan that you're developing. And most companies do not put a value in there. Matter of fact, most business mission statements and product statements, nobody can read it except an engineer maybe. And you've got to get it to, it's a very simple process to be able to do this. So now you're building your product. Do you want to go to a single country or do you want to go global? And we have what's called global companies, that are starting off global, but most companies stay in this single market strategy because we haven't got to the point where a lot of companies are competing on the global basis. But since you're here, it's showing that you want to get out of Kazakhstan for a lot of reasons and expand Kazakhstan in general, but also to get your products worldwide. So you're moving away from the target market strategy of Kazakhstan, as an example. Your mix, okay, will stay a little different. This is in your home country. So you have your product. You'll set your price structure. You guys know how to set a price structure? Okay. You'll have a promotion strategy in place. How you do it, who you're going to work with, those types of things are the place. This is basic marketing over here. When you start going to a global strategy, it begins to shift. It becomes a lot harder because your product adaptation, because you have to develop it to the standards in different countries. You have to be able to look at it, and if you can't make those standards, it looks like, look at how the plugs are in here to put your computer in. Some countries have different power sources and so forth. You have to design these to be able to do the standardization. Pricing is going to change, and there's a lot of different pricing models and pricing structures, and there's a lot of rules and regulations and laws about pricing and what you can and cannot do that you have to put into your plan because people want to see your thought process. Promotion of how you're going to promote, the adaptation and standards to the place you're going to. You're going to concentrate on marketing activities more so than anything else, and you're going to coordinate those marketing activities. So if you thought marketing was for somebody else in your organization, you better have a different way of looking at it. And finally, the integration of competitive moves. And what I mean by that is because you're dealing with competitors around the world. And if you don't know who your competitors are, when you're going global, you have competitors that you don't even know of yet. They're coming at you from Korea, South Korea, China, Japan, Brazil. They're everywhere. And how do you get to know what they're doing? But the other part is you coming into my market over here, let's say in the United States, and somebody's already selling something similar to your product. They're not going to let you get into the market. They're going to fight you. They're going to try to stop you. So you have to have a strategy to tell those VCs how you're going to stop those people. Who your competition is, what their strength, their weaknesses, their pricing strategies are. All of that you have to put into your business plan. And part of your business plan is the thought process of looking at all those different pieces I just showed you to make sure that you're successful. A lot to do, right? Okay, let's talk about market value. Traditionally, for most marketing books, they'll tell you that value is equal to benefits over price. Okay, money, time, effort, and so forth. That's great. Should know that. That's not the real value that most people buy from. Value is not the price, is the real issue. If I can help you do what you need, you'd be willing to pay me a lot of money. Okay? So you'll pay me if I can help you, and if I can save you the time and the energy. If I charged you $10,000 for my services, that would be well worth it. Maybe not. It's up to you. But that's what I'm saying. It's a value that you're putting on. It's not the price that I'm charging, but overall, if I can take 5 months of your work and put it down to 2 days for 10,000 US dollars, is that worth it to you? That's the value. So you look at it that way. The customers perceive the value. You're saying, if he can do that to me, then it's worth it. I perceive that Jack over here can save me this kind of money, 5 months of time, then it's worth it. That's the perceived value. The real products that you are selling and services, value and services are the only real products. If I create a product that has really value to my customers, that's what I'm selling, the value of that product, not necessarily the product itself. If this product here is better than another product, it's a better value to you. You'll buy it, or the service that somebody's offering. It's not what you sell, it's how you sell it. It's the message that you're selling. Whether or not you go and do that pitch in front of a VC or anybody else, it's how you're going to sell it. If you don't have the enthusiasm, the excitement to be able to anticipate what their questions are going to be and answer their questions, you're not giving them the value they need. So you have to be better prepared to answer their questions. So it's a lot of work in this process. And that value is very focused to the group, to that VC that you're going to. You better know how he buys or she buys, what they're looking for, why, who their competitors are that they've looked at, because they're going to compare you to somebody else, and you've got to be better than the next person there. So how do you find out all that information? It's a lot of research. Remember, we go back to the plan? It's the research and the analysis. And just because you read something that says this is what you're going to do doesn't mean it's going to work. You have to compare, analyze, really look into the market over here. Ask that who, what, when, where, why, and how. Who, what, where, why, and how. And the market positions the value to the customer. Look at Google versus Alibaba from China. The markets position it. In America, Google is number one. There's a lot of reasons for that. Look at the way Google sets things up. Is it the number one in Kazakhstan? Possibly, maybe not. Can the model that you have in Kazakhstan go worldwide, or are you going to have to look at the audience or the customer differently in each geographical region? Probably. Most of the people around the world do not speak Russian. Okay, they do speak English. Do they speak Mandarin? Well, you have a major group in China that speaks Mandarin, right? Well, that's great, but it's hard for American companies to get over there because they're not familiar with how to do business over there and how to create it, and they don't really understand the makeup of the buyer, the Chinese buyer, or the makeup of the different Chinese buyers. So it really becomes very difficult. So what you need to do in this plan, and it's very hard to do this, it takes time and effort, is to understand those customer needs. That's the key to this. The more you understand that customer needs, then you can gear things individually to those customers. You can speak to those customers. Okay, you can do that. What's your company's special competence? What do you do that's different, that's innovative, that nobody else was doing? Because what you're trying to do is to have a monopoly initially on whatever you're doing. Because if you're a copycat, in other words, your product is copying this product, it doesn't work. You got to be unique, innovative to something totally different. And innovation is not just in product. It's in the way you position the product, the way you set up the product, the way you develop your plan. All of these things are innovative ways that are going to get attention to you and to your company. This is how it's done. Okay? You need to know who your competition is. Not just in your home country, not just in America, but you better know what's going to come out of China very shortly, and South Korea, Japan, Israel, Germany. That's who you're competing with globally. And if you don't know that, somebody else's product could have the first mover advantage from another country before yours. And people may not look at your product. And if you're not in the top 10 products being used worldwide, nobody's going to pay attention to you. And really what you want to do is be in the top 3. Now, it seems hard, but it actually is hard, but you can do it. So the next part becomes who can help you. Collaborators are people you can work with that can tell you or help you and guide you along. The center here has people. I know you're dealing with them. Some of these people can help you along in how to do certain things. The problem with collaborators is especially for VCs that are helping, a lot of times VCs will look at your product because they're going after they've invested in somebody else, and they want to know what the competition is. Okay? Think a bit about applying for a job. You get all these resumes that come in from people or CVs from people around the world, and who's your competition? And what happens is Google and a lot of the companies in the Valley will look at these resumes and say, well, who's laying off and who's there, and they'll bring you in for an interview, and they'll get all kinds of information from you. Okay, the great spies like that. You get all this information so I can know what's going on in Google, if I'm Yahoo or whatever. It's an interesting way of looking at this. Okay, you have to know who and have trusted collaborators that are going to give you good information. Okay. There's a caveat to that. Unfortunately, when it comes to global competition, there's very few people in the market that can help you. Okay, when I look at books to teach at Berkeley on competitiveness, global competitiveness, there's only 10 books in the entire English language, okay, on global marketing and global competitive marketing. That's all, because it's such a new area because of globalization. There's not enough research that's been done. That's why I started my own research institute, to get more research and to do this stuff. It's very hard to find that kind of information. And then finally, what are the contexts? The cultural, legal, technical. You hear this and you see this in the Valley all the time. You're going to meet with attorneys. You're going to meet with accountants. You're going to meet with all the functional groups that can help you. But those are all good. You can hire lawyers. You can hire bankers. You can hire accountants. And you need to know that. But the thing is, these are the keys to your company. These are the keys to your plan. I can hire these people, okay? Their functions. Remember what I said from what Peter Drucker said? The 2 key things in business are marketing and innovation. The more you're innovative in what you're doing, not just product, but how you go into the market, and the more you understand your customer and how they buy, how they look at things, the better off you're going to be. And you put that into your plan. So, what are your target markets? This will explain a little bit about your target markets that are out there, the pace in which the population accepts new technology. Not every market in the world accepts new technology. Not every market has the infrastructure, right? You've seen markets, you've seen other countries that you've come to. They don't have it, so you have to look at the market that you're going to that will take your infrastructure, okay? Then the services, do they have all this depending on your product, okay, or service that you're planning to offer? So in other words, if you're going to build desalination plants in the middle of Africa where they don't have salt water, it's not going to work. That's a simple way of looking at it. But if you're going to build desalination plants in California because we need water here, that's a whole different ballgame right now. So where do you go? Okay? How much regulation of the industry that you're going after? Is it financial services? Is it healthcare? How much is it regulated by the country that you're, or countries that you're going after? And what's the difference going to be? The income level of your preferred customer. Do they have the money to buy your product? A lot of times people come to me and have said, look, I have a cell phone. Samsung did this. I want to take my cell phone and I want to go to Africa, but they sell a cell phone here in the United States for $300, and the people in Africa are not going to spend $300. So they cut a lot of the functionality out, got the basics to the cell phone technology, and they can sell it in Africa, certain parts of Africa, for the price they want. So you may have to take some of that functionality or reduce the cost in the manufacturing process to be able to do that. The population size. If your country has a certain population, or would say you wanted to start a product, and the reason why so many people are in Silicon Valley right now, like the Norwegians and stuff, they don't have the population to support the buying of all these products. They have 4 million people, 5 million people. It's not enough. They have to go to markets around the world. On the other hand, the Chinese don't have to. They got enough people. They have basically their own market. And they can look at your product and say yes or no fairly fast to whether or not they want your product in China. It's a whole different way of looking at the market. And can you get in, and how hard is it to get in, and what kind of rules and regulations? Then the customers' buying habits. How do they buy? The psychology of buying. Women buy different than men. Around the world they do. But also people in different countries buy different than other countries. How do they make up their decisions? How do they come to the conclusions they want? How do they choose different products? Do they do it by color? Do they do it by the way the language is? How do they buy products? In America, it's the same way. We have so many different groups that look at these issues. If you're going after the Hispanic population, you have to know how they buy. Otherwise, you're not there. You need to know this buying behavior of VCs. What's the interest of the VC? What do they want? Or I do it with investment bankers who look at companies right now that are distressed, and they bring me in, and I'm going, what do you want? Do you want to get rid of the company? Do you want to make it grow? Do you want to replace your management? What is it that you're looking for? What do you want? Okay? But usually I know ahead of time, because in conversations with them, they'll eventually tell you if you ask the right questions. People will give you information, and then you validate those questions. Okay? And then the level of competitive activity. In the United States, everybody wants to be here because it's an open market. Your competition is really high. If you have a product that's really good, you may not want to be here in the United States. You may want to sell it to Argentina or Brazil or someplace else to start with, and then you work your way around back to the United States. Okay? Depending on your product. So the steps to put in your plan to enter these new markets, and again, since you're now global, you're looking at how to, so part of that marketing plan that you're looking at, you have to have assessment of the market. Is it viable? Do I have the channels that will sell my product? Are my customers interested? How do I get to them? Do I use Google? Do I not? Do I do it online? Do I do it offline? Can I get into Macy's? What is it going to cost me? All those questions you have to look at and say, this is how I'm going to do it. And when you go to your VCs, if you're looking for money, or if you go to Macy's, you have to tell them why, or how you came to that conclusion, your thought process, your planning process to be able to get there. And then you have to get ready to your preparation of how you're going to sell to them. Okay? You just can't come up and say, hey, I got the greatest product in the world. I want you to buy it from me. Will you? Okay. See? Why? But if I came to you and said to you that I will give this to you right now, it's going to make you successful, but what I want is I'll give you a month free. If it works out really well, will you buy it? Okay? Very simple, very easy. what I give my class at Berkeley, the executives that come there, I go like this. Everybody know what this is? It's a pen, right? It's a pen. Sell me this pen. Can you sell me this pen? You have to be able to tell me why this pen is unique and different. If you can do that, then you can sell anything. And you need to be able to sell you, number one, because you're the CEO of your life. You need to be able to sell that and your idea and your company. Sell me the pen. Everybody uses a pen, right? What's unique about this pen? What is unique about the application you're developing or the service you're developing? What is totally unique because there's so many people out there? Think of the pen in the future and try to define the pen in a different way. Okay? You got one too. Okay? I'll give you a different one over here in a minute, but you're selling the pen. Then you look at who can help you sell, and you have to build your contracts to your partners that are going to be able to do it. You have distributors and so forth, depending on who it is. Your partners could be Google, it could be Yahoo, it could be Alibaba, it could be 100 different places, depending on the type of product. If you're in the mineral extraction process and you want to sell minerals, iron ore and stuff like that, you have to know if the channels are open and who's going to buy and how they buy. So your marketing message in your plan becomes different because now you have multiple customers. So if I'm coming up and trying to develop a computer to sell in the United States, you're my end customer, the last customer in the process, but I have to go through distributors. I have to go through retailers. I have to go through a lot of different people who are my customers, and each of them wants something different from me. And I have to be able to respond to their needs to be able to get finally to you. Okay? When he goes out and buys this Stanford Engineering sweatshirt that he has on, which is a real nice one, should say Berkeley on there, but that's okay. But it's from Stanford. Okay, that store that you bought it on campus bought it from somebody who is a distributor for that, who is from a manufacturer from that, who's a manufacturer or the importer, because it may have come from China probably. And if it did, you have to go to the manufacturer in China. So now you have 5 different customers in this supply chain process. And each of them are looking for something totally different. And your job, because you're a great CEO, I know that, is to be able to sell to them and market to them to what they need, based on what their needs are, not yours. You'll get what you want if you help them to get what they want. Okay? So, and the last one is how you set up your business operation, what model you're going to do for your business and so forth. You can do it online, you can do it offline. There's a lot of choices over here, and that all goes into your plan. Everything that you're thinking, this is all the stuff you need to think about that could go into the different areas of the plan or not, but it's going to help you to differentiate you from everybody else in the world. So in most companies, I said there was 50 different ways to get into markets. The primary way, the primary 5 ways that most companies around the world use is either to export. I see that you have a great product that you're manufacturing over there. I can bring it into the United States, and I'll import it into the United States from your country. And there's regulations and laws and everything else that go along with that. There's taxes and so forth. In the United States, as an example, if I brought this product from Korea, let's say Japan for a minute, okay, there's no tariff, there's no tax on this product from Japan. 0. If I brought this product in from Russia, there's a 35% tax on this product. So if this product costs me $1, I'm going to have to pay 35% on that. If it costs me $1 and I'm getting it from Japan, I'm getting it for $1. Okay? There's no tariff on the product. So what that's telling me is when you look at it overall, that 35% could add up to a lot of money, and it makes it worth my time to buy it from Japan versus Russia. Yeah. So you have to look at its tariffs and how many product they'll let into the country and so forth, and there's a lot of people that can help you with that. Another way of doing it, especially in high tech, so this is exporting, and usually exporting a product is physical type products, but let's say you're developing a software product, okay, and you license the product. So you want to go to Cisco and say, I have this software that I think that you, Cisco, should look into. Now, when I worked at Cisco, we either bought companies or not, but I could license your software. So I'm going to license your software. I'm going to put it in my Cisco device, okay? And every time I sell one of these devices, you get a percentage of return, and I pay you. Very easy way to do it. You can maintain your company in your home country, but now you're beginning to expand globally. You license your product, and it also gives you the ability to continue to develop your product in different ways. So you can do that. The next one is contract manufacturing. I see this product over here. I want it. I'm not going to manufacture it in my home country, but what I'll do is I'll go to China or Vietnam and I'll have them manufacture it under the agreement that whoever I'm working with in that country becomes a partner of mine, and what they will do is help to sell the product in their home country. Okay? Simple. Then we get into a joint venture. Think of a joint venture as a marriage. You got two partners, pretty much equal or trying to be equal, and you're going in there for a certain reason. Okay? One is better at development of certain types of thermal devices, and you're not, but you need a thermal device for this, so you do a joint venture and you bring it together into your device. It's a joint venture. And finally, you have a merger, an acquisition, or an equity stake. And this kind of work I did at Cisco. I did mergers and acquisitions. You look at the company, and what happens is, I like what you have. It fits into our business model. And what you do is you merge, or you acquire each other. They'll probably acquire you. Okay, and a lot of companies, what they'll do is they're setting themselves up to be acquired by a different company. They'll invent the stuff, and they want out, so they'll have an exit strategy to be acquired by somebody else in the process, and that's the way they keep doing it, because they can't manufacture in their home country. There's just not enough people to do that. China does it much better at less cost or whatever. That's why you do it. So you have low involvement, which is the exporting and so forth, to high involvement, higher cost. But there's all kinds of mixtures here in this process, but those are some of the keys. So your venture, if you're looking for venture money, he's going to ask you, what is your strategy? Okay, which one do you want to do? And most companies from certain parts of the world are going to say, I want to be acquired. Okay. When I was at Cisco, one of the issues that came up is I had venture capital come to me and say, buy this company. It goes in with what you're doing at Cisco. The problem was that they really didn't know what we were doing at Cisco. They just wanted us to buy the company. And that's not the way we did it. If it fit into whatever our strategy was and the company looked good and we did our analysis, then we would go ahead and buy the company. But we did a lot of due diligence in that whole process. So when you're doing your plan and you're looking at the markets, you need to know who your potential customers are. How do they purchase their products in this process? How do your competitors market their products? What are their business models? What are the available channels that you have? How formidable, how strong is your competition in this process? What are the customer expectations of you and your process? And can you deliver it on time and within budget and so forth? And that's a problem with foreign companies, because if you're gone and so forth, it's harder to get in contact with you. And, of course, warranty, repair, and finally the pricing structure that you had. So you You have to look at those. Those are the key items that are going to go into your plan. And if they don't go into your plan, you still need to go through the process because somebody's going to ask you those questions and you need to be able to answer them. So when you're developing your marketing plan or your business plan, you're really looking at who is your target market and what market segment they are, your positioning in that market, okay, the trends in the market, the benefits to the customer, the competition, all of these things are here. The staffing and operations, they all go into your plan, but you have to look at those to get the right people, and you have to convince the people you're trying to sell this to that that's the right mix. That's the marketing mix that you're looking for. And you can do it within a reasonable time frame that we're talking about on the bottom. Business model mistakes that people make. Too many features. Make it simple. What are you doing that's different? Don't give me a lot of features. Nobody ever uses all the features. Do you know the customers perceive a hole? Is there a hole that somebody needs your product? If not, you're competing against everybody else. I'm trying to differentiate you now. If there's the same product and there's 100 different competitors out there doing very similar, how are you different? Or maybe you shouldn't be doing that. Maybe you should be doing something else. Okay? Are your customers actually spending money right now? Is there a decrease, a recession going on in some of the countries? Can you sell your product in Italy and Greece right now, or even Spain because of the economic situation? Is that a good market for you? You can sell in any market, any product, as long as the right product meets the customer need at the right price. So even though Spain is in a recession, or Italy's in a recession, or Greece is in a recession, whatever, you can still sell if you have the right product at the right price and you know your customers, you can sell it to them. From a VC standpoint, the real problem is your burn rate. How much are you spending to get your company up and operational, and are those numbers accurate? And most of the time they're not. The real expense is the burn rate. It comes from the making of the product successfully, comes from making the product successful, not from making the product. Your burn rate is getting it out into the market versus making the product. Too many people make the product constantly. And sales and marketing costs can be 50% or greater to the total that you're going through. And usually on your financial statement, it won't be 50%. You're going to underestimate the cost of your marketing and sales. Questions? Okay. So the execution mistake that people make in their plan is the impossible is usually pretty hard. You can't do everything. People know that. If you're going to tell me you can walk on water, I want to see it, because remember, these people have seen this constantly. All the time they see this, okay? Most of the time, you will overspecify features. It'll be all or nothing, which means you either get the product, but maybe there's a piece of this product I really want. I don't want the whole product. That's going back to that licensing. I'm willing to take part of it, and maybe from Kazakhstan, you'll find a company here in Silicon Valley that has a different piece of a product over here. It could be from South Korea. If you guys come together, you'll have a stronger product that's out there. Totally different way of looking at the products. The non-invented here syndrome, you don't find that as much in the United States, but other countries, if it doesn't come from their country, they don't want it. Here it doesn't apply. You really have to have your credentials as leaders of your company and show that you've done something over there, and that you're very easy to do business with, because a lot of companies and a lot of CEOs are very hard to do business with, and what they'll tell you is they won't compromise, they want whatever they do, and that's it. Really very difficult. Okay, so which strategy should you put into your plan? Well, it depends on what you want, your vision of your company, of your product, of where you want to be 5 years from now. Do you want to sell the company? Do you want to grow the company? What is your vision for that company? What is your attitude towards risk? You want to risk the family and friends and move to the United States for a little while and leave the kids back in the home country, or what's your risk? Certain countries, risk is a negative. In Italy, you have one chance to do good. You take the risk. If you fail, that's it. You'll never try anything again. So certain cultures look at risk totally different than other cultures. In America, you can fail, you get up, you fail again, you can get up, you can fail again, and eventually you can start a company and make $1 million. You can quit Harvard like Bill Gates and still do okay. So, I mean, it all depends on that risk. And it's not the risk, it's your attitudes toward the risk, but it's also the attitude of your culture towards that risk. When you go home, your family, your friends, your wife, your whatever it is, they're going to look at this differently. And you have to be able to handle that. The available investment capital, that's what you're looking for. Do you have enough money to do that? How much is enough? You really have to have, and you're going to do that. I think this week you're going to go through the financials, and you really have to be able to look at those. Those numbers become critical, and I'll show you in a minute. How much control that you want as the CEOs of your companies? Do you want to? Are you willing to relinquish control and let somebody else take over who's better at it, and you still be the engineering person, or what do you want to do? Those are all the kinds of questions you have. I'm going to move to a different topic here for a minute. So what I did at Berkeley, I work with executives from 40 different countries who come to the United States to learn how to compete. So what I did with them is their assignment was to go around the Bay Area and go to the pitch sessions, the angel investment pitch sessions that people are doing, to find out what's good and what's bad about the pitch sessions, because the business plan leads into the pitch. Okay, you're looking for money. So this happens to be at the Katz Forum. Are you familiar with that? It's an angel investment group, Katz Forum. It's an angel investment group. So what happened is I sent the students out, and this is a summary of what their evaluation. And again, these are executives. Most of them are VPs or whatever from like Samsung Heavy Industries, the Bank of Tokyo, a lot of different companies that they'll send their executives. And the main points of the pitch that they looked at is the real customers. Do you have real customers and revenue? Not just fake. Do you have them? Positive. Okay. Have you raised money? How much? Positive. Knowing your competitors, and just don't ever tell anybody that there's no competitors, because everybody has a competitor. You need to know who they are, what they're doing, what their business models are, who their channels are, who their major customers are. What is the problem you're trying to solve? And why are you different? The market, what market is it? How large the market is? What's the opportunity? The distribution channels and your go-to-market strategy. And finally, who your team was, or is the correct way of looking at it. Not to do in a pitch. It should be a T in there, an O in there, but okay. Answers like the best all because we are cheaper and we want to differentiate. Okay, not good. Tech people don't know how to describe their product. That came out a lot in these pitch sessions. They didn't understand the audience. Make it very simple. Make it in the least words that you can. I make a device that moves slides forward and backward. Period. Okay, something like that. Not being modest when answering questions. A lot of these people would get up in front of you and say they're the best course, the best product, whatever. Very arrogant in their process. They are very highly optimistic of their sales forecast, which most of them are wrong. But they're very optimistic in that because it usually takes longer than they project. They don't know their competitors, and they don't know how they're unique in the market compared to the competitors. They don't know how to market and the trends that go on in the market. And they're burning money at an unbelievable rate. And investors won't look at that. And that's what they do. Not to do in a pitch. Can you see this okay? Okay. Look at the way this 5 years revenue growth is. Here we are in 2012, nothing basically the same. Then it goes up a little bit. Then it starts really going up. And look, by the fourth year, fifth year, doesn't usually happen. Impossible. But somebody actually made this. I mean, this is real. And somebody actually came over here in services, and it doesn't work that way because you have to hire people. You have to do all kinds of things to be able to put this together. But that's the mistakes that they make. Okay? And look at the financials. You begin to see it. Here you're starting off in 2000 at 852,000. Look by the year 2000, 8 million. Okay? From 1 year they're going to make $8 to $27 million. Come on. That's unbelievable. But this is coming from a real example they're doing. And then they double it. Okay? And then no. It doesn't work that way in real life. Okay? Especially for startup companies. The odds are totally against you, but look at the revenues that are coming in. All of a sudden, you start with the expenditures, 1 million, and now you're up to 32 million over here, and the net loss. Okay, you're really making a lot of money. Doesn't work. Be realistic. Be on the conservative side. You're better off showing them that you're making money down the road over your projections than to really state your projections in a certain way. And number of licenses is a good example. You start off at 2014 as 53 licenses, then you're doubled or tripled, then you continue, but you got to have the support process in place to support all these licenses, right? And it doesn't show up, so it doesn't make sense. From a financial standpoint, it doesn't make any sense to be able to do that. Yeah. No, that's okay. Right? Right. Right? Right. But that's not what that's showing. But, right. Okay. So my answer to what you're really stating is, if you're going to present something like that, you need to show people what you're presenting and have them understand what that means. Okay? People look and they know the terms over here, expenditure. Most people that are, at least in the angel community, when you get into the VCs, it's a little different, but they know those. But when you start using other terms, you're going to put a lot of people to sleep. The question is, explain why, very simply, that you got to those numbers, okay? And are they really realistic? You had a question. Did I answer your question? And by the way, if you do it differently, that's okay, because most people will follow the same format. And what you really want to do, remember at the very beginning I mentioned innovation, marketing and innovation. You can innovate in putting your presentation and also your plan together, because how you bring your plan out to the market, you're saying these numbers are wrong, okay, or they're not, it doesn't apply to my case. I, at one time, worked for an investment banking firm, and what they looked at is the only thing they wanted was a 25% return on their investment. Okay, their IRR. Not bad, okay? And they didn't care on the revenue. They wanted, that was their return number that they were shooting for, and whatever it was, it had to fall into that range, 25 or above. They could do it. But they started looking at the numbers differently than most people, and they did very well. And I won't name the name of the company, but that's what they were looking at. Yeah. Right. Right. You can show that as long as as long as everything balances up how you're doing it. Because if you're going to show the revenue, then what you need to show is the number of customers. If you show that, you're okay. Because if you're charging 1 million per customer and all of a sudden you go from one customer at a million to three, you're okay. Make it realistic so people believe you. Because a lot of times they look at this and it's not, most of the time they're not believable. And remember, you're going up against a lot of different people when you go to these VCs. They constantly see people come in. So they're making an assumption that you're like everybody else. And what you're trying to do is be different from everybody else. That's fine. That's fine. Right, but make it easy for them to understand the information you're doing it. Don't give them, you'll go in and other people will talk about the financial plans, but I'm trying to say is look at this as a marketing plan too. And whatever you do here, make it as easy as possible for people to understand. And when you're in front of them presenting to them, explain what you're saying so they understand and why. Remember the who, what, when, where, why, and how. I keep going back to that. I'm talking about the pitch, but it goes back to the business plan. So if they're going to look at your pitch and then go back to your business plan and it's not explained in your business plan how you got to where you are or why, your assumptions, then it doesn't work. This is just, all this is coming out as the final of your business plan to be able to do that. And they had that one over here, and of course, that puts a lot of people to sleep. Make it bigger and make it so people can read it. And the key metrics, like you were saying, the expenditures and so forth, explain it to them why it comes out. And I didn't really want to get into the plan because you're going to go more into the financial part to it here in a little bit. I'm taking a different approach. So here's what the investors want to know. Here's what I wanted to know when I worked for Cisco. The scalability of your business. How far can you scale? And what that means is, are you planning to grow your business? How many markets do you want to get into? Do you want me to buy into your business? Do you want me to license your business? Do you want me to do a joint marketing? What do you want me to do? Okay? The problem that you're solving, you got to tell me my problem. Because I don't always know my problem. You're going to tell me my problem, okay? And the market that I'm in, okay? You got to know that really well. The regulations and legal concerns, again, if you're going into certain markets and you're trying to work with oil. A good example. I want to import oil from Russia into the United States. Sounds easy, doesn't it? You want to import oil from Kazakhstan into the United States, right? Some of you may. First of all, what kind of oil is it? And what I mean is there's different kinds of oil, different grades, different thicknesses of oil, and those types of things. And not all the American refineries can take that oil. Only certain ones. The Russians have more sulfur in their oil than the Saudis do, okay? So the refineries on the West Coast take Saudi crude, light crude Saudi oil, and if I brought Russian oil here, the refineries wouldn't do that. There's only certain refineries around the world that can refine Russian oil. So I have to know how to do that, which ones to go to. Do I pay as soon as the oil is given to me from Russia? Do I pay beforehand? Do I pay when the ship comes here to the U.S. and it starts unloading? But not only that, there's only 5 banks in the entire world that will give me the money to pay for oil. So if I wanted to go down to my local bank and do a deal for oil, they won't look at me. There's only 5 banks in the entire world that move that kind of millions of dollars back and forth. And And if you're a new person starting out, you better really know how to do that, because when you go to that bank, they're going to turn you down. So you need to know those regulations and concerns and so forth. How are you going to get customers? That's the big question. So you got this great product, you get the investment. How are you going to get me to buy it? Who is your customer? How are you going to get it to buy it? You can say, I can go online, but how do I get people to give me the eyeballs or the looks on that web page to buy that product? Okay. What about the team? Why should I buy from you versus the guy behind you or the next guy behind you? What makes you different? Okay. Those are really important. What do you want to do with the money? You're going to put it into sales. You're going to put it into marketing. You're going to expand overseas. What are you going to do with your money? Okay. Besides take a vacation to the United States. The other thing is, if the VCs want you in the United States, you got to be careful, because in order to get here, you could come here on a 6-month tourist visa, and then you have to go home after 6 months, and you can never make enough contacts within 6 months to keep your business going. Sales cycle is longer depending on your product. Okay. Seasonality of cash flow. Is your product easy to replicate? Because if your product is easy to replicate, believe me, somebody's going to copy it, unless you have trademarks and patents and so forth that are around the world. And your net profit. And when is your break even from a VC standpoint? When do I get all this good stuff? Okay. Investors are biased by their own experience and bad understanding of potential market. Investors really don't understand markets. They know the numbers, but they don't understand markets, believe me. And most of them are all men. Sorry. For the women in here, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult, but it can work, okay? No questions about the nature of the contracts agreement with actual customers. They don't ask those kind of questions. So if I have a contract in my home country that I'm supplying so many businesses with, and I need to ask those, you got to let them know that I have a contract with the government of Russia right up front, if you have a contract with the government of Russia, because in America we may be doing something to not buy Russian products or whatever. There's all this kind of stuff. You have to really be upfront about that. They don't always talk about the strategy, your strategy in the future. You need to know. And a lot of times it doesn't work with the venture money, because they're taking more of the company than you really want to give. And here's the question to yours, is what is it all based on? What's the sales forecast revenue based on? They don't always ask for that. You need the more you can give them that information, and the more accurate it tends to be, the better off you're going to be. How do you find them, the VCs? And how do you build a relationship? You got to do the research, and there's hundreds of places where you can get the research. You don't necessarily get to meet them in the valley. I mean, they're around, but you can find out who they are. Each of them goes to sector events like the trade show in January, the computer trade show. You'll see a lot of them there. You have to be really realistic in that process, and you have to show them the passion that you really know what you're doing. You're the best out there, because so many of them will stand up front and go, my financials and my revenue are this and this, and they bore you. Believe me, I've heard plenty of them. Okay. So what are the characteristics of a high-tech market such as what we're in right here in the Bay Area? If you look, it's highly dynamic. It constantly changes. It's complex, and it's very risky. And as a result of that, it's very fast-moving. It's expensive to be here, very competitively intense. I'm letting you know up front what to expect, okay? And consumers rather than production-orientated. We're geared, you brought it up first, we're geared to the consumer. Okay, this is what makes the American market go. The consumer is going to buy. Money coming in. This is what makes us unique. You have to be able to compete in that environment. Your plan has to show that you can compete in that environment. Okay? Product developers must anticipate the consumer needs before the consumers are even aware of them. So how do you do that if you're halfway around the world in Kazakhstan? How do you get your intelligence? Well, the organizations like we're here, but there's other places that you can do this. You got to be up and you got to be able to analyze this and what's going on, and it's really hard to do. And there's certain trends that are occurring, and most people, not just foreign companies, but even U.S. companies fail in that. So when developing the business plan, when you really begin to look at it, that quality of that value proposition, remember, the customer determines what the value is and not the price. The quality of that value proposition. What happens is, and this happens with writing a book or any type of thing, when you look at the number of times that you have to redo that plan before you hit your goal, look at the average number of times. 13 different times that business plan has been changed or edited or modified before it becomes successful. So if you're thinking that you can overnight write a business plan that's going to be successful, it usually doesn't work. It's like writing a book. It's like doing a lot of different things. You need to find your market research, the analysis, the intelligence that go behind it, and to test your ideas out, not just here, but in other parts of the world, and get that information. Because what will happen is if you go to your family and say, I have this great idea for this product, they're going to say, absolutely, it's the best product, wonderful product, we'll invest in it, because they love you, okay? That's your family. Your countrymen might do the same thing, but what will happen is you need to constantly look at markets and which ones you're going to go to, so you know as much about that market as or more than the people you're talking to. Because if you can show them that you have that knowledge, they're not going to turn you down. Okay? You got to tell them why it's you and document it through the numbers or however you do it. This is the type of the return and why it is, how you're going to do it, the who, what, when, where, why, and how of that whole process. And it does work. And it's been proved to work. And this is the whole issue of competitive strategy and competitive analysis and everything, and building plans, building marketing plans, and so forth. So why do businesses fail? They build a solution without a problem. People aren't going to buy. Not the right team. You're not bringing the right people together to make this happen. Pricing and cost issues. We didn't really talk about pricing because there's competitive pricing and buying, and globally there's different ways of handling currencies. Poor marketing. That's a big one. Ignoring customers, that's another one, and you're in the wrong time in the market. The timing is totally wrong. You may want to wait a little while. Maybe you're ahead of the game, and then the product will come out later on, or you may, a year from now, come back and say, I was ahead, but now then there's a demand in the market for something that I have. Restart that whole process. And questions? A lot to think about, right? Yes. The pitch is different. And here's the way you look at the pitch. Okay? The process is the same to get to this solution, okay? If it's a VC, what does a VC want? What do you think a VC wants? They want, VCs talk in dollar terms, money terms. Right. So the first thing is, what's your return for them? Okay, they don't always, remember I said they don't always know the market. You have to tell them the market, explain to them the market, because they may or may not know that market. If you're coming into the U.S., they may know the market better. If you're doing it in your home country, it's a whole different ballgame. What do they want? Well, look at it this way. You have a bunch of different people in this process. Let's start with the customer. Customer wants value for the price that they're going to pay, whatever that is. And they want you to help solve that problem. So the end customer. The next one up is the channel partner. They want to be able to sell that product to the customer, the final customer. Even though the final customer still could be you, me, whoever's buying it, they're your customer, and they're looking at to make a profit by selling it to them. And to make it easy, you need to make it easy for them to sell the product. So you've got to explain to them and train them and teach them how to sell your product. Okay. The next one up is possibly you may have retailers depending on the product. What do they want? They want a return of 25% IRR rate, whatever it is. They want to be able to know that you're going to handle the returns or whatever, if that's the case, to be able to sell the product, and you fit the marketing segment that they're after, maybe young people between the ages of 18 and 29, that you can handle that. There's then the exporter over there. He wants to be able to have the money, be able to do that, but you're gearing it the approach to each one of them. So now you go back to the finance people or the VCs or the angel people. Angel investors aren't necessarily that astute to the whole process. They want to get involved early. They want to say they're investors, and they have, let's say, $200,000 US to do that, and they want to get at least that money back. They'd like to be able to double or triple their money. A VC looks for, a 10, 20, 15, whatever you need to find out from the VC what kind of return they want. But they also want to know your strategy, because if you're a company and your goal is to have Cisco license your product or to have Cisco acquire you, that's a whole different ballgame than a VC saying you need money to start a plant because you're going to manufacture in your home country or whatever. So you have to figure out what they want. So each one of those people who could be your potential customers are going to look for you to give them something that's going to make value to them. And if you ask them what directly is your value that you want, they're going to look at you and go, what do you mean? They don't think in these terms, okay? Customers who buy your product, when I came here and started talking to you, you had no clue how to determine the value that you were going to get. You were here, if I would have asked you what the objectives that you wanted from this presentation, it would have been all different. But what I'm trying to be, you would have never thought of me talking about values, right? You would have talked about how to develop a business plan. And most of you would have sat here and fell asleep, okay? And one of you started to over here, and then I had to wake him up. No, seriously, but what I knew enough about was how to talk about this, because I've been doing this for many years now, now you have value. Now you have something to think about. Now what I've really given you in this process is a differentiator. That if you take that to a VC right now, they're going to look at you and go, 95% of the companies that come to me don't give me what you just gave me. Okay? Now you're being more innovative in the process. You now know about here. You're not asking for something. You're telling them how you're going to use what they give you, why they should go with you, number one, and how we can work together in that process. Totally different approach. Okay? The business model is the model of the company, how you're going to run it and structure it, okay? What you're going to do, how you're going to operate, but that business model is a part of the plan. It's a part, everything I showed you up here is a part of the plan. An incubator is not a business model. An incubator says, I'm going to start my company in there's two types. There's an incubator and an accelerator. An incubator helps you develop and works with marketing people. They bring them in and get you going. An accelerator takes what you have and moves it faster to market. Those aren't what you're looking for, okay? That's not the business plan. Your business plan says, I'm going to run this type of business. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to grow it. I'm going to have 15 people, and I'm going to have it online. I'm going to concentrate on these countries. I'm going to develop this product. I'm going to outsource this part to China for development or whatever. That's the business plan. And all the pieces that we had at the very first slide. Am I still on? Yeah. All these pieces of the business, okay, all these pieces go in. If you notice, these are all part of how you're going to run your business. But this is what you're going to do with your business over here. What kind of operations? Where are you going to have your operations, okay? You're going to have an office in the United States. You're going to have your main office in Kazakhstan. I don't know. You're going to have your corporate office here. Are your engineers going to be in Kazakhstan? Okay. How are you going to run, how are you going to do that? Are you going to have a vice president over here? What kind of staffing are you going to have? Are you going to hire people around the world? Those go into your business. Into the business model. Are you going to do it online? You're going to use Alibaba to do it for you. Who are you going to have do it? You're going to do eBay. I mean, those all have to be worked out. And again, I can't answer you specific because your products are different. That's how it fits into the model, into the plan. But all these pieces of the puzzle come together. Okay, so your plan, even though this is the time-honored business plan model, you've got to go beyond that business plan. What I'm trying to encourage you to do is to differentiate yourself from everybody else that's out there, okay? Because everybody else out there is going to give you the same type of business plan, but they're not necessarily going to talk about the different markets that you're going to go into, that value proposition to the people. And before you go to a VC, I would know exactly the value proposition that you're going to do, the gaps in the market right now, what kind of channels you're going to go to, your pricing model that you're going to use, what type. Because what happens in the pricing model is that most companies will go this way. They'll take their competitor's price over here, and what they'll do is they'll put a margin above that competitor's price for their price, or they'll try to match the price of the competitor, okay? That's not how you do your pricing structure. What you have to do in your pricing structure is figure out the total cost of development and everything else, and then one model is that you add a percentage above that, okay? Because your middlemen are going to add another percentage above that, and so forth. So there's different ways of looking from your competitor and either going below the competitor's price or above it. But the real way of doing it is looking at the real cost structure, and that means in parity with different prices around the world, and come up with the cost that you're going to do. And remember, going back, it's not the cost that matters. It's the value that matters, okay? It only matters with cost if your product is a commodity. That means there's 100 of these out there. If your product is not a commodity, then the cost structure or the price has no bearing. It's the value. If this device saves me 100 hours of work, it's worth $200, whatever. I can get $200. Whereas if the other one only does nothing, then it's not worth it. Make sense? My closing, what else? So one thing I didn't mention, the paper, your plan should be about 20 to 30 pages, but I will say this, in 10 appendices, that's the norm. It doesn't have to be that. The key is if you did your work correctly, and I'm going back to that timeline, remember what works, that preparation model, that graph that goes to the preparation model. Just passed it here, hold on. Okay. If you know the value and you're talking in the language of these people, the more you can do that, the better off you're going to be. But at that other model we had in the back, the other graph, I think it's towards the back here. is it? The more you've worked it out over time, the more you're ready to answer the questions, the better off you'll be. That's the model. You've already done the work. So you don't, if you can write it like that, and you can shrink your paragraphs down to just the information that people need without repeating it and constantly doing that, you can cut the amount of pages down to be able to do that kind of work. What else do I have? Innovation, really, when you look at innovation, it's really getting the right mix of all these. The companies that can do that are the most successful in that process. Got it. That's, I know it all sounds easy when I just put it up on. It's not. Let me tell you, it is hard, okay? But you didn't come here to make things easy, right? You came here because you want to do things better for your country, better for yourself. You want to expand out. Yes, it's a lot of work, and most companies aren't willing to spend the time. That's why 95% of them fail. If you spend the time, you put the effort in, you do the multiple times. Again, it's a lot of work in the process, and most people are very lazy around the world, and they don't want to spend the time. And if you really have something there, and you looked at your competition, and actually not only looking at your competition, you look at your people, the collaborators who can help you. You may find that you're going in this direction to try to get some of this work done, but you may find that company that's in Brazil that's already got that piece. Then you say, well, we can work together. Why don't we do a joint venture, go to market, we're stronger. Now I got the Brazilian market, you'll work that aspect, I'll work the Kazakhstan market and this market, and now I have something stronger in the process. Okay? Size of business plan? I said 20 to 30 with about 10 appendices. On the other hand, if you do a good job, I've seen people get funding with 5 pages. Depends on if you've done your homework on me and you know what I'm looking for and you're going after what I want versus all this other stuff. You could sit down with me and we could discuss all kinds of things, and I could find your business plan in an hour just talking to you, and maybe we don't need a business plan at all. When you get your business plan should be constantly modified until you get it right, and then when you make your first $1 million or more, when you have maybe 50 or more employees that come up, you'll have certain milestones in your business plan. When you get that, you need to relook at your business plan to see if the strategy is right and the tactics that you're using is right. And you may find out all of a sudden the market just changed. You may have a recession that just occurred somewhere where you were at, or a new competitor came in. Then you relook and analyze again to the new competitor. How are you going to work with that competitor? It's a constant process back and forth. It really never stops. You really have to do this. And even companies like Coca-Cola and Apple, they're constantly looking at the different markets, who's coming in, who's leaving. They're doing this constantly. Well, if you meet your milestones, you're okay. Then your plan is accurate. If you're not meeting your milestones, then you need to adjust, either up or down, positive or negative. You know, but to be honest with people about that, because if you're not, and all of a sudden I find out that I lost, millions of dollars because you're not meeting them, then there's a whole issue we have. Okay, but for your sake, you're trying to meet those milestones. If the milestones aren't accurate, you're going to adjust to the accuracy. And you need to let people know. You need to let your stakeholders, the VCs or your employees or whatever, know that you're making it or not making it. Be open with them. And your generation is more open than people than from my generation. They kept a lot of things more secret and so forth. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? Yes. Okay. I'm going to sell you a pen. Okay. Let me see if I.
The one thing I have seen, and the first where I have seen this test is the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio.
All right. You saw the movie where he sells the pen.
First instance when I have seen this test,
Okay. Tell me about this pen. What is it?
green, regular pen, Hong Kong, Asian rock,
Okay.
automatic.
Automatic. Chrome. People like chrome, don't they? It's attractive.
From plastic.
But it's from plastic, but it looks chrome. And by the way, Steve Jobs always said that chrome, people buy chrome. Look at this. People buy chrome, and most of your computers are chrome because Steve Jobs believed that people are attracted to chrome. That's why on those slides it's kind of a chrome slide. Okay? Green, what's the meaning of green? Could be in many colors, but what do you think the meaning of green is? Money. Okay. What does it say about Hong Kong? What's the meaning for Hong Kong? What about Hong Kong? What's unique about Hong Kong? Hmm? Quality? Bad quality? No, that's China. That's mainland China. Ever been to Hong Kong? High-rise towers, very modern, very financial, very business-like. You know, a lot of money. You know, you could even say I could sell this chrome because of the high-rise towers, take it this way from Hong Kong and so forth to be able to do that. So I would sell all those things. This is a pen, you know, it's chrome. It shows the high rising of Hong Kong and the rising. I can rise your company by using this pen. Just like Hong Kong rises from the ocean, your company will rise from the ocean. Now, this one is a black pen with chrome, and it says Stanford University. Okay, what about this one to this one? What is it about these two pens? Okay, yeah, they're different, I know that, but which one do you like better? Yeah. Hmm? You like Stanford pen better than this one? Why? Because it says Stanford? Because you have already, okay, that's no good. He already has pens from Hong Kong. So if you didn't have a pen from Hong Kong and you had the choice of a black pen or a green pen, which would you choose? You choose a black one. Why? No, if you didn't have the Hong Kong. You like more he likes black. Remember, Steve Jobs, going back to computers again, what did he do? He took chrome and he took black, right? And of that color and brought it together. So you're attracted to the black and to the chrome. People see this. This is the perception that people have. This is how people buy product. It's subconscious to a lot of this. Where Hong Kong, you'd see that, but it's money, and most people don't like the green color. If it was blue, it'd be a little different. How about this red one? What do you like? What's red tell you?
Ferrari.
Whoa, I like this guy. What does that tell you? Anything? What does red tell you? Good, bad? When you get a grade in college, if you got a bad grade, it was red. Is it a good color? Aggression. See, what does China think about red? What's the color? Why does the Chinese flag red? What does it mean? What's the symbolic nature of the Chinese flag? Huh? Wealth. Wealth and prosperity. You know, when women get married in China, they wear red and gold dresses. The gold is because of wealth. The red is because of prosperity. So if you're going to do something in China, okay, and if you not Hong Kong, okay, a little different over here for a minute. You would go with red and gold, okay? Hong Kong, you'd still do that, okay? But I mean red and gold, but Hong Kong. And Steve Jobs believed that most applications like these and computers and stuff, people love the chrome and black. And that's how people buy. And they buy subconsciously. If you go to the stores, look at the way the stores are set up. Here's a good example, okay? And I use it in my book as an example. You go into a grocery store. Have you been to grocery stores here yet in the United States? Have Yeah, you have. You've been to the liquor with the wine. Yeah, I know you may not drink wine. Well, you're Russian, but you see all these bottles of wine, right? Just bottle after bottle after bottle. They all say they're Chardonnay, or they all say they're Cabernet, or whatever it is. And how do you choose? Amongst everything in that store, how do you choose which product to buy? Price is one thing, but let's assume that price didn't matter. How else would you buy? The company, the brand name, right? The brand name of the company. What else? Recommendation of friends. Recommendation of local people. Absolutely. What else? Okay. Anybody else? Experience. Okay. Okay, I'm going to give you two. I didn't bring my slides from class. I use this at Berkeley. But okay, if you were looking at a wine bottle for a minute, and both of them are the same, and I had a picture. Do you guys know who Marilyn Monroe is? Yes. The actress, Marilyn Monroe. She's an older actress. If I have a bottle with Marilyn Monroe on here, okay, and then I had another bottle over here without Marilyn Monroe, but it just said Venti Brothers Cabernet, okay? And what's going to happen is I'm going to have a dinner tonight, and I'm going to have a dinner tonight. Okay, I just finished it. I'm going to have a dinner tonight, and I'm going to invite a charming lady for dinner, okay? Which bottle of wine would I serve? Would I serve the one with Marilyn Monroe, or would I serve the one that was really plain and very elegant?
Very elegant. Not Marilyn Monroe.
Right. So when you go out to these investors, when you go out to customers, you need to know what they're thinking, how they're buying. That's the example. The pen is used as an example for the same thing. You didn't know the colors make a difference because the way you see them, and by the way, people around the world see these things differently. Colors do make a difference in the way things are operated. They're totally different. Thank you. Yes, I'll be.
It means that we should know our customer.
You better know your customer, otherwise you're wasting a lot of time.
Okay. And the second last question, very quick. We have noticed that we have error in our program in Kazakhstan. Numbers maybe in
It's not. No. I'll tell you what the problem is. I've got to get done here. The problem with your thing in Cat. You read all about this, okay? He gives you nice, great things that he's going to do, right? He doesn't tell you how he's going to do it. He tells you when he's going to do it. He tells you maybe why he's going to do it, but he really doesn't set out a plan, okay, to talk about over time what's going to work, what's not going to work. He just gives you bullets, but he gives you nothing depth to be able to do that. And what you have to do if you're going to sell this plan to people, I need to know more about this plan because it sounds good, but there's no substance here. It's very high level. But I'm trying to get down to it. What are you going to do, and is there a return for that? Is it possible to do it? What's your competitors going to do? Everything we talked about should be in this plan. It's a government plan. It's no different than a business plan. It's exactly the same thing. It's a marketing plan. So take this back to your government guy and tell him what you want.
Do you have in the United States the similar programs for 15 years, 50 years further, or 100 years further? Do you have in the United States?
From our government? From our yeah, we do have some of them, yes. Yeah, but we don't go 50 years out. Our government doesn't go that far. You know, we don't think that far out. So I have cards here if you want, and you can get a hold of me anytime you want. And thank you very much.
Thank you, James,
Right,
so
thank you.
much.
Right.